Okay, so we're back. We've run out of content, so what better way to get content than look at Not the Onion? Crazy stories from around the world curated on Reddit. My favourite place, of course, love a Reddit. This one just sounds amazing. IT worker sues her boss, believing XX in email were kissers. Now, if you're not from the UK, I don't know if people around the world do this, but X is traditionally seen as a way to make kisses in text messages. Like if you get a text from someone and it has an X in it, contextually, it's probably a kiss if it's from a member of the opposite sex. Don't know why, just is. So this woman is saying she's suing her boss for sexual harassment after believing his use of XX, YY, and question mark 4 times in an email asking for more information was actually a coded way of asking for sexual relations. Now, it could have been, but was it? So Karina Gasparova also claimed that when Alexander Gulrandis, what is with these people's names? They're just making it difficult for me. Renamed a work file with his initials AJG, which would be his initials, as you can see. I don't know what his middle name is, but presumably it starts with a J. She said it was an abbreviation of a jumbo genital. Right, okay. How have you come to that one? Is it because it fits your narrative? Is it everything looks like a nail when I'm a hammer? The Employment Tribunal at London Central Court said her perception of events was skewed. That's one way to look at it. Her claims were rejected. Chat her up. If you don't know what chat somebody up means, it basically means, what do kids call it now? Riz. Like, just go talk to a member of the opposite sex. Try to get their number, get them to go out with you, go on a date, kiss, have sex, whatever the context is. So she was a project manager at London office of SDocs, a company that provides paperless trade solutions. She took the firm to the tribunal claiming sexual harassment, discrimination, and unfair dismissal. So she got fired in relation to this. The tribunal heard she believed her superior was trying to chat her up when discussing business on work calls and claimed he would stare at her. Maybe he did. This one I can't know. Maybe he did stare at her. Although staring at somebody, as far as I'm aware, is not a crime or necessarily sexual harassment. It was also claimed that email correspondence from him insinuated a desire to, quote, engage in sexual acts. Okay, let's read this email. She presented it as evidence. He said, quote, can you please complete the following? The solution us currently used by XX Agris companies and YY barge lines in corn cargoes in south-north flows in the waterways. Also, can you remind me of what the balance of the rollout will be and the approx timings? Thanks. I would have thought common sense would have dictated here. XX means fill in the blank here of how many Agris companies use this, and YY barge lines of how many barge lines, and it flows in the, and then quote the which waterways. This is just how you write something out when you don't know. I do this in script writing. If I'm writing a script and I want to do an outline fairly quickly and I know that there is a detail there, but I don't know what the specific detail is, I'll leave X's or Y's or question marks, maybe in brackets sometimes. And then I know when I come back to it later that I've got to just go Google more specifically on that point and fill out the information that I didn't have on hand right at that time. Like if I'm writing something and I'm on a train and I don't have internet, that's specifically when I do something like this. Or if my Wi-Fi is out or whatever it's going to be. I'd have thought this one would have been purely common sense, but then again, she didn't understand that AJG was his initials and thought it meant a jumbo genital. Which maybe it did. Maybe it did. She represented herself. Always a good idea. I always think it's fantastic to represent yourself with no legal training whatsoever, with legal matters involving legal professionals. I think that's a great idea. Definitely do that. She argued XX referred to kisses, YY to sexual contact, and question marks as a coded way of asking when she would be ready to engage in sexual acts. Yeah, he is a member of some form of secret agency, and he knows that you also are, so you can decode the message that no other person would code in this way. Did he give you any kind of cipher so you can decode this message? An alluring voice. Oh no, please stop. But the tribunal panel said it was a, quote, genuine request for information and did not imply any sexual nature. Yeah, it looks like that to me. Further allegations included him saying, "Have a nice evening," in what she describes as an alluring voice. So she didn't even say he said anything too crazy. She just said his voice sounded alluring. And I'm not saying, by the way, that this person hasn't, looked at her in certain manners or whatever. But if your only arguments are he said something in an email that most people can look at and see doesn't say what you think it said, and he just said normal words in normal conversations, but it sounded alluring, it's very hard to believe something's actually going on here and it's not just in your head. Because if he was being some kind of way, surely there'd be more than this. Maybe not, but obviously not on this evidence. You couldn't possibly side with somebody on this. She claimed he deliberately touched her hand when reaching for a computer mouse. The tribunal said neither incident was sexual in nature and they were also rejected. Yeah. She told the panel that he was rich and powerful and that a man in his position would be too clever to make any advances obvious. I mean, she's not specifically wrong that this isn't a thing that could exist. It's just that if you've got no evidence of something, then how are you going to do anything to somebody based on literally no evidence? He looked at me and he reached for a mouse and touched my hand and said words that I thought sounded alluring. Is not actionable, is it, in a sexual harassment suit? At least not in any world I live in. She submitted a formal grievance letter in April 2021 against him, but resigned after it was rejected, the hearing was told. Resigning's a little bit weird, though. The claims from her was called a skewed perception of everyday events by the tribunal panel, which also said she demonstrated a tendency to make extraordinary allegations without evidence. Yeah, I can't call this anything other than that, to be honest. Her claims of sexual harassment, discrimination, and unfair dismissal were rejected, and she was ordered to pay £5,000 in costs to S-Docs, the company that she worked for, and the company who, obviously, the person who she alleges sexually harassed her still works for. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know, man. Looking at somebody is not grounds for sexual harassment lawsuits. It'd have to be a crazy amount of looking. Jailed for burning down rivals. This is an Australian story. Of course it is. James Balcombe had a burning desire. Oh, you. He had a burning desire to be the number one in Melbourne's jumping castle game, and his plan to bounce to the top had worked so far. After paying arsonists to set fire to competing bouncy castle businesses, his company, Awesome Party Hire, now ranked number one on Google. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? He had a burning desire to bounce to the top, as they so eloquently put it, top-notch journalism, and he got what he wanted. He's now number one. Obviously going to prison, but was number one until they caught him. His business was so successful, he'd been able to purchase property for the first time in his life. Congrats. But Balcombe became worried police would notice his own factory was still standing. His business would have to be... No. He burned his own business down. No, bro. He was playing some 5D chess, though. Maybe they're going to put the clues together that every other bouncy castle for hire has been burned down in Melbourne, but mine's the only one standing and I'm fucking killing it. So you know what I'll do? I'll burn my own down. He called his arsonist for hire, Craig Anderson. Gotta have one of those. When you're setting up a business, that's on your checklist, right? You go accountant, lawyer, arsonist for hire. It's definitely up there. He showed him through his kangaroo flat factory. Is this a place? Pointing out his jumping castles and said he would fill up some empty jerry cans with petrol. On March 6th, 2017, fucking hell, this is an old one, Anderson poured petrol across the floor of Balcombe's shed and set fire to it. As it became engulfed, Balcombe, his wife and son were in a nearby house. Fucking great idea, yeah. The shed was insured for hundreds of thousands of dollars, which Balcombe planned to pocket, of course. 3 days later, Anderson was arrested. He dobbed Balcombe into police, naming him as instigator of the fires. You fucking goofed, mate. You goofed. Whenever you commit crime, for every one person that knows, it's infinitely more likely you get caught. If you'd have just done the arson yourself, you might have won. You could have just done this one arson yourself. Surely you learned how to set fire to things while hiring somebody to set fire to things. Balcombe had instructed Anderson, who has since been jailed for 8.5 years, and two other men to commit 11 arson attacks over 2 months between 2016 and 2017. So this was like he was taking over a fucking gang territory so he could slang his rock on the corner. Over a 2-month period, he was setting fire to all these motherfuckers' buildings. Burn them to the ground, he told them, offering $2,000 per fire. That's cheap, man. That's a cheap arson. I wonder if he looked around to get better rates, because these seem pretty low. It's pretty competitive arson. Many of the fires were unsuccessful, but A&A Jumping Castles was totally destroyed. Anderson threw a Molotov cocktail through a smashed window, causing a huge blaze that engulfed the factory and destroyed 110 bouncy castles. Think of the children, man. Think of the children. The fire caused $1.4 million damage, and owners Michael and Eileen Andrew lost everything. Well, hopefully they get it back now. The couple were forced to close their business and both now work casual jobs in childcare. What an absolute dickhead. Literally just ruining lives because he wants to be the #1 bouncy castle man. It's crazy how competitive business is nowadays. Holy shit. Balcom was charged with 11 conspiracy to commit arson offences and was released on bail in 2017. He then failed to show up to court for a final directions hearing, with his lawyer handing over a fake medical certificate. A warrant was issued for his arrest and he was found living in Perth, running a fraudulent stamp operation under the name Paul Johnson. Right. So just a straight criminal then, just a pure criminal. Just lock him up, mate. Don't let him out. Fuck him. Once he was extradited to Victoria over the arsons, he pleaded guilty. Balcom, 58, appeared by video link from prison in the county court on Thursday, where he was jailed for up to 11 years. He's probably going to die in prison then. Judge Stuart Bales said while Balcom's goal may have been to advance his own business by orchestrating the arson attacks, the damage had extended far beyond that. Literally destroyed people's lives, yeah. It impacted the lives and livelihoods of others, caused significant loss, suffering, and emotional trauma, he said. He also said that Balcom's offending was persistent. He was so set on destroying his rivals. He told Anderson to return to businesses when the initial fire only caused minor damage. One business was targeted 3 times. Yeah, at that point you know somebody's after you. If fire happens once, you can be like, fucking hell, what happened there? Twice, you're like, all right, something's going on. 3rd time, yeah, somebody's trying to burn down my business repeatedly. They really want me gone. You could have changed your mind when you saw the damage caused to the property. You could have pulled back, stopped, but you did not, Judge Bale said. Balcom, who has already served 2 years and 5 months, will be eligible for parole after 7 years and 10 months. Just don't let him out, fuck him. That's it. Bouncy Castle King can be prison king now. Oh my god, what is it with crazy Australian stories? Elderly woman, 95, tasered after wielding knife in NSW Snowy Mountains. It's another Australian story. Mate, look at this little old lady. They're just straight tasing old women now. I mean, to be fair, she was wielding a knife. What was she doing? She was at an aged care home. She was transported to hospital where she's fighting for her life. Thoughts are with the family at this difficult time, said the police commissioner. I understand and share the community concerns and assure you that we are treating this matter with the utmost seriousness. A critical incident team will now investigate the circumstances surrounding the incident. So there's no details other than she was wielding a knife and then they tased her. It seems I don't know who's in the right and who's in the wrong here, if it's split down the middle. I have to imagine if you show up and a 95-year-old woman in a care home is wielding a knife, there's got to be a checklist that you run through, and tasing her has got to be almost at the bottom. But then again, maybe they did run through them. Maybe this was a very spry 95-year-old woman that was really threatening lives. One London man banned from standing near any woman he doesn't know in public. Seems like all of these are UK and Australia today. We're not getting to laugh at any Americans, which is usually the main purpose of these videos, which is crazy. Everybody's crazy though. The order lasts for 10 years. A predator, well, if he's known as a predator, I already understand the story. It's not John. John's banned from standing near anybody. It's Predator John. I don't even know what his name is, but if you describe somebody, the first word you use to describe them is a predator. Yeah, we get it. He's been banned from standing near any woman he doesn't know in public after cops caught him sexually assaulting a teenage girl in front of her family. This is how people get murdered in public, generally. I'm not going to try and say his name, but Ali was spotted by plainclothes police attacking a schoolgirl when she got onto a tube in central London with her family in October last year. I fucking love that I'm not in England anymore, and I love that I never lived in England. I fucking hate London. England, London, rather. I hate London so much. The assault happened just before 5 p.m. Even just saying the Tube in central London just sends me into a frenzy of just ill feelings. I really can't stand London. The assault happened just before 5 p.m. when Hersey, 32, got on board a train at Green Park Underground Station and stood near the doors. At the next stop on the Piccadilly line, a family got on the train, and moments later, Hersey sexually assaulted the 13-year-old daughter just in public in front of everyone. He doesn't need an order to not go near women, because who's gonna uphold that? Who's gonna uphold an order? Is somebody following him around like, oh, you're too close to a woman there, whatever your name? What's his name? Hersey. You need to go to prison for this. You're sexually assaulting underage people. This is a straight prison. Straight to prison with you. So plainclothes Transport British Police saw him, dragged him off the train at Leicester Square and arrested him. In a London Crown Court on May 5th, Hersey of Limehouse, East London, was jailed for 18 months after being found guilty of sexual assault. Oh, so he's at least going to prison, but 18 months. I mean, come on, bro. A judge also handed the defendant a 10-year sexual harm prevention order, banning him from intentionally standing behind or next to any female he doesn't know in a public space. He was also ordered to pay a victim surcharge of £187. What are they fucking doing with that? So obviously, why you charge people with stuff like this? I've seen some wild, like just ridiculous, defying common sense points about things like protective orders and restraining orders and things like that. Like, I remember I was talking about a case before where a woman had got a restraining order on somebody, and basically she was being asked to give where she lives, her address, over to the person who she was getting a restraining order from, so that the restraining order would work. And people were saying to me, like, oh, of course they'd need the address to go to the person so he knows where to avoid. Because obviously people's point was, if you don't know where somebody lives, how could you have a restraining order on? Because then you could just randomly go by there, not even knowing that they live there, and then they could arrest you and you'd go to prison for going against a restraining order. And it's like, man, anyone that can use their brain should be able to know that if you just drive down a street, take a left, and then continue on with your day, and you just never knew the person lived there who has a restraining order against you, one, nobody would ever arrest you. Two, you're not doing anything, and if you don't know that they live there and you can see that they've not done anything when they've just drove past and gone about their day, then they'd obviously see that you're not violating the order. So you don't need the address, because obviously the purpose of it is to protect you, so that if they are caught at that address, then they know you are there to stalk them. Because if you don't know by being told where they live, then obviously you've found it via other means, aka stalking, and then gone to that location where you know that they live where you wasn't told, and then it's actionable, right? Because you've purposefully gone out of your way and they can see that you've done that. And it's the same thing with these protective orders. They're not like, obviously nobody's enforcing it all the time, but they exist so that you can have the book thrown at you, essentially, if you are caught doing something else in the future. Because now you've got the warning of you're not allowed to do these things, and they're not going to be policing it all the time. But if you do get caught doing one of those things, then we already have this, and you violated this in addition to the other stuff that you've just done. That's why these things exist. It's not like they're going to be, following him around and with a measuring tape finding out whether or not he's too close to people. But it does really confuse me when people think like, oh, you need to be told where the person lives if there's going to be a restraining order. And that's common sense, apparently, because then you know to avoid that place. But yeah, maybe I went off on a tangent there, but that shit just confuses the life out of me, how you'd need, as a victim of somebody stalking you to the point you need an actual restraining order, you'd need to give that person, that unhinged person who's like threatening to murder you and stuff in certain cases, your actual living address to be able to get a restraining order. It would make much more sense that they don't get the address, and then if they're caught outside fucking around, then they're about to find out. Because I think it's pretty easy to tell if somebody doesn't know and they're just going about their day. So there we go. Tangent over, I guess. Inspector Sharon Turner of the BTP said on Monday, our plainclothes team are specially trained in identifying dangerous sexual offenders like Hersey, who will do their level best to commit such crimes without notice. In this case, the victim and her family didn't even realise what was happening until our officers quickly intervened. Passengers should feel reassured to know we have plainclothes patrols like this taking place across the underground day and night to keep everyone safe. Good. The tube is still a shithole though. Always is. Probably always will be. But there we go. I think we can end it on that one. There'll probably be some more to come back to. There always is. Every day there's new news. Every day. it gets more ridiculous than the last. So thanks for watching. Suggest content, send me article links, Twitter, DMs are open, Discord DMs are open, Discord is public, just join, you get verified and all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time. Peace out.